you very much, Mr. Chairman. And members, I'd like to thank you for holding this hearing. Certainly, it's not expected of the Intelligence Committee, and I'm very pleased that we have so many members present today. And I'd like to beg your indulgence. I know you spoke of a time limit, but it is very difficult to talk about all of this information in 10 minutes, but I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I possibly can. Mr. Chairman and members of the committee, I'm here today to testify about the failure of the Central Intelligence Agency to conduct a serious and thorough investigation into the allegations of CIA involvement in cocaine trafficking to fund its contra-war activities.
America's not even a country, it's a corporation. And that's what this healthcare is about. Control of our schools, our food, everything, every control aspect of our life is under this. And people need to wake up. This is not a bill for the people. This is not even a country. And people need to look into this. This is a corporation. The United States is a corporation, and it's all for the corporations.
Mr. Brown. I wasn't around in 1871, so I'm not deeply familiar with what the caller is referring to or the issue of whether or not we're a corporation.
So how did we get into this mess? When we were being formed as colonies, it took a lot of money to get all the supplies and ships and everything over here to form the 13 colonies. British bankers and the British Crown put up a lot of dough. Well, they were happy to put up the dough because as long as they owned the colonies, they knew that the resources of this over here would pay them back a very good return on their investment. But when we broke away from them, now they had no return on their investment, and they had a legitimate claim of debt against us. If we weren't going to be theirs anymore, we needed to repay them for what they had invested to get the colony started. It was a legitimate debt that we owed when we were formed. There are sentences in the Constitution that read that the debts under the Confederacy are continued under this Constitution. So the Constitution is also an agreement of debt to the British and to the French, because we asked the French to help us defeat the British, and they wanted to be paid back for their military expenditures. So we basically were broke when we became a country, and what we didn't know, or I didn't know, is that the bank note when other countries loan to a country is a 70-year note. So the 70-year note comes due when Lincoln is president. They don't have the money under Lincoln to pay off the note. So Lincoln doesn't want to give the public lands of the 13 colonies and the public lands of the Louisiana Purchase back to the Europeans in a foreclosure. He'd rather have that not happen on his watch. So he says to the European bankers, can we renegotiate the loan? And they said, well, we might do that, but we're going to want some upfront money. We're going to want better terms, and we're going to want more collateral. Under Lincoln, there were now 34 republics, many of which were not, part of the original 13, weren't part of the Louisiana Purchase. And he went to them because what the European bankers wanted was they wanted the public lands of all 34 republics to be held as collateral against the new national debt for the next 70 years. Well, when the southern states heard that they were being asked to do this in a war that they hadn't fought in for collateral to bankers, and they didn't like the terms, they basically said we're not going to do it, and they seceded. The real reason for the Civil War and the secession of the states was over the collateralizing of the public lands of those republics. Slavery might have been an issue and various other things. State rights was involved in it, but it was really over the collateralizing of the public lands, and they weren't going to.
educating the people, uplifting fallen humanity.
Laws are what govern every institution of slavery, from the Vatican to the Holy Quran, from the curse be ye to ye Canaan. See, Canaan was cursed. Of Christianity to British Parliament, from the black codes of the southern states to the Constitution of the United States, laws. Slave-based laws were required because the Moorish of Africa were all from various tribes and historically established nations. It took decrees of laws from any nation to enslave another nation, because the enslavement is a violent shaking of the ancestral tree to the family of nations, right? They were not monkey-minded heathens following the yell of Tarzan. It was the laws that were used to remove the 2/5 from the Moorish, which had sustained them as members of the human family. 1/5 was their denationalization. That was the removal of their free national names, nationality, i.e. Moor, Sudanese, Nigerian, Mandinga. The other 1/5 was their divine creed, their religion, their pathway to their God. This is called one's vine and fig tree. Without these 2/5, man is reduced from civilized to beast. A man-made man, right? This is what the term, your boy be using this term to represent the man-made man. Self-made. When they say that he's a self-made man, this is what they talk about. The other 3/5 are his spirit, his soul, his body of flesh, i.e. the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendments. Hence, if anyone sincerely wants to find the lost found nation, they must look into, below, through, and behind the laws of man, and learn to love the laws of Allah. When researching historical events, one must also apply the laws to these at special times. The most critical part of any search is to know the history, meaning value. It's another thing I want to tell you. The word history also in Latin was histatus, which also means to value. Of what's lost in the general area where it was known. Finding the lost found tribe of Shabazz, the ancient ones, the rejected cornerstone, Hiram Abiff, the sleeping giants, descendants of the ancient Moabites, etc., lawfully known today as the Moorish Americans. Let us look to the law. Those that have suffered failures and disappointments resulting from searching for Negro colored books or black journals written by authors wearing slave-shaded glasses will be happier to develop their eyes of the law. Black history and African cultural historical studies are timely and have their place in the evolution of consciousness. But if the sincere is an honest search for where the heart and future of Africa rest, they must learn the law. All the black history spurned in America will not reveal the free national name, the true identity of the African Moorish enslaved in the United States.